Hi everybody, Rob Keys here doing a quick review slash recap of Tom Clancy's The Division. This is a game I reviewed over 2 weeks ago. I published it on screenrant.com so you can check it out. And I've been playing quite a bit since, and so I kind of wanted to recap my thoughts and give you an update because I haven't made a video yet, even though the game has been out like a month now. But in my review, I title it saying, The Division is a bad shooter wrapped in a beautiful package. And you have to read through the very in-depth review. There are a lot of words in it explaining exactly what that means. But first up front, I think this game, if it interests you and you have friends who are going to play it, it's totally worth playing. There's a lot of fun to be had. It's a pretty big open world. It's very familiar if you played Ubisoft's other open world games. They're all based around the idea of geographic progression. And although it's an open world and you can literally just walk anywhere, you can only walk. There are no vehicles or anything. There is some fast travel points you can unlock to get to each sort of region on the map. But by region, that sort of limits where you can walk because every section gives you like a recommended or required level range. Not required, but recommended level range. So at the beginning of the game, levels 1 to 3, you're here. And then levels 3 to 5, you're there. And then 5 to 7, you're here. So it's open world, but it's a very linear path in terms of what you're doing with the story missions. And if you try to get ahead, you're just going to get wrecked because the NPCs will destroy you. So in that respect, the open world style of it and like going to a new area and then you unlock the tower, or in this case, a safe house, and it shows you if you interact with all the stuff inside the safe house, it'll show you on the map all the side missions and the equivalent of challenges, I guess, in this game would be these encounters, which you need to do those to gather points to unlock stuff for your base. And before I get into the progression side of it, I will say I call this game a bad shooter, and it's not necessarily mechanically bad. It's sort of solid for what it is, although I would say it's sort of like the bare minimum for a AAA third-person cover shooter. And up front, I should say, The Division, if you don't already know this, is a looter shooter. It's a third-person RPG looter shooter, and by every definition of the phrase looter shooter. So it's very similar to Destiny in that respect. Because all you're doing is trying to grind to get better gear and better gear and better gear. And then once you get better gear, you grind some more to get better gear. And that's sort of the whole system. And it does that pretty well, but it doesn't do anything innovative on that front. So going back to the shooter stuff, as a third-person cover shooter, it works. And it has like a similar cover-to-cover system where it shows you the line and it gives you like a button prompt to move from cover to cover that you may have seen in, I think it's in Splinter Cell Blacklist, but it's definitely in Ghost Recon Future Soldier. I think it's in Watch Dogs. So it's a very Ubisoft style thing. But unlike some of those other like third-person Ubisoft games, like even Watch Dogs, but definitely Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell, the shooting mechanics aren't that great. It's very basic. You go over cover and shoot, but you can't like crouch or go prone. You can't move stealthily, which is a shame because a big part of customizing your gear is putting on different weapon attachments, and that includes suppressors, which reduce your threat, but it has no practical effect because there are no stealth kills. You can't sneak behind someone and take them out. There's none of that. It's very arcade, Borderlands style RPG like, and how you shoot guys and numbers pop off their head, which is that is how MMOs and online shooters work. That's what Destiny does to a certain extent. But in this game, it's very weird because it's the best part about this game, or one of the best parts about this game, is the environment. It's very grounded. It's if you don't know anything about the story of this game, it's set in modern day New York, where a viral outbreak has occurred, and I guess Manhattan is sort of quarantined as ground zero of that. And it happened on Black Friday because they put this smallpox virus thing on banknotes or cash, and on Black Friday, cash changes hands more than any other day in any other place in the world. So that's how they kind of spread this stuff. I think they also call it green poison or the dollar bill flu or something. And it fucks up New York real bad. So it's been quarantined, and now there are different factions out there trying to take advantage of the situation. There are rioters. There's these guys called the Cleaners, which have flamethrowers, which are trying to burn away the disease and the blight of humanity. And there's a private military corporation. Those are the higher level bad guys. And there's another group, true. Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of prison escapees from Rikers Island. They're just called the Rikers. So while there are 4 factions plus your own faction, which is the Division, the players play agents in the Division, and these guys are like a secret government-sanctioned agency which activates when the world goes to shit, and they need to have some semblance of a government or a governing body, and that's when the first wave and second wave of agents go in to kind of deal with the crazy shit, and that's where you're playing. So it's the equivalent. Playing an agent is like the equivalent of playing a Guardian in Destiny. I'm going to keep making comparisons because if you're really into the Division, chances are you probably play a lot of the Destiny as well. Definitely some more obvious overlap. which makes the timing of the Division so good because Destiny is like just in dire need of new content, and so it's perfect timing for Ubisoft to launch their new big flagship AAA title. And I should say up front as well, the Division was a massive success for Ubisoft. It broke every record for a new IP launch. Like I think it beat Destiny, and for Ubisoft, it's their biggest launch ever. So good on them for doing that. The marketing was very, very strong for this game, and it's a beautiful game to look at. I mean, the gameplay, showing PC gameplay specifically, like to players and letting them know you can play co-op and you can group up and do all this cool shit, and without a monthly subscription fee, that sells itself because there are not many games like that. But whether or not this is as good as Destiny, I don't know. It has the same problems as Destiny in terms of the mission design and what you're doing. But it does some things better, and I think like the how you progress and have like abilities, skills, and talents in a way that you're never locked to playing a class. In Destiny, you have to pick one of the three classes, and then in the class you choose, you have to pick a subclass, and now there are three of each. So you're kind of locked into a role. In the Division, any player can be any type of player, any type of agent. You can fully customize your loadout. You can mod your weapons any way you want. You can switch on the fly, and there's no penalties to choosing like a path down the skill tree because you unlock everything, and you can activate whatever you want anytime. So you can play any role that fits the needs of the mission or your team to beat the higher level missions, because you really have to have smart combinations of talent and most especially abilities to beat the high level stuff. So that stuff it does a lot better than Destiny, but Destiny had its hooks in me more because it's got more. The biggest thing is variety. Because the Division is stuck in modern day New York in the winter, everything kind of looks the same. It's this dour, muted color scheme of snowy gridlock style city, urban streets, and that's it. And all the enemies are just humans. I mean, there's different factions, and like the military guys were white, and they look militaristic, and the rioters, they wear hoodies, all of them, and then like these cleaners all have like flamethrowers, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but they're all just humans. So the idea of shooting a human in the head 6,000 times to get their bullet sponge health bar down is absurd. It just doesn't fit when so many of the other elements are grounded. So there's a clash of stylistic design choices there. But in Destiny, it works better, and it's a better game in that it has more variety because you're not stuck with just fighting humans in New York. You go to different not alien planets, but you go to Mars and the moon, and you see entirely different environments. And in each environment, you battle entirely different enemies because there's different aliens, and they can be all different sizes. They can have crazy weapons and vehicles, and so you can equip those different weapons and vehicles and armor, and you can look different and feel different and do different things. In the Division, you don't have that. Every encounter, on top of the environment sort of being the same, and I'll talk more about the environments in a second, but every encounter is sort of the same thing too. And this is why I say it's a bad shooter. Mechanically, it's fine. It's adequate. I wouldn't say it's as good as other third-person shooters. I think it's lacking a lot, and I think the controls can be janky as hell. Playing on a controller, especially, like sometimes you turn cover or can't get over an obstacle, or you do when you don't want to, and it's sometimes you're battling the mechanics and the controls more than the actual enemies on screen, and that's when there's an issue. It needs more polish, or something has to be changed there. And I wish you had more control in that respect as well. But with Destiny, that gameplay, the gameplay speaks for itself. It's silky smooth. It might be the best shooter mechanics ever. And the encounters are different. And by that I mean, back to why the Division is not a good shooter. Every encounter in the Division is you going up to a group of stationary NPCs or very slow moving NPCs and then attacking them, and you kill them all. Sometimes you do that and you get to an area and then a wave comes from one direction and you kill them. And that's it. Every single encounter is killing stationary NPCs or fighting off a wave of NPCs. And sometimes it's a combination or a different ordering of that. But that's all you're doing. You're going up to things and pressing X and you're killing everyone in the area in the most basic possible way. There are no set piece moments. Like every shooter and you're going to point A to B and killing everyone, right? That's the Call of Duty style. But in Call of Duty, you're going down like every next set piece is unique and crazy big things were happening. And there's like a narrative within that gameplay. You don't have that in the Division. It's just like, go here, kill the red dots in the radar in the most basic possible way. And that's it. Press X. Press X, wait, defend, kill all the red dots in the radar. And it's boring as hell because every single encounter in each zone is the same. So you go to a next zone and you're doing the same sort of side missions. It's to rescue the hostage, kill guys and press X on the door, or it's like defend this weapon cache, kill the guys, press X, kill the guys that come. But it's not fun killing guys because you're just shooting the little bullet sponge heads, and it's not very good because like if you combine the very basic shooter mechanics with the fact that you're not actually doing anything interesting in the missions, there are no set pieces, there's no crazy explosions, the environments don't dynamically change at all, there's no vehicles coming in. It's modern day New York. Why aren't there vehicles? You see helicopters all the time. The final boss battle has involves a helicopter, and in the Dark Zone, which I'll talk about later as well, helicopters come in to pick up your goods and extract them, but you don't fight helicopters. There's no Jeeps and Humvees and tanks. There are vehicles and bicycles littered everywhere in New York, but you can't drive any of them. Like, how did the smallpox virus negatively affect the ability for vehicles to drive? Like, that could have been Ubisoft's out for adding some diversity to their set pieces, but because they didn't, even the story missions, which are that's the best part of the game, is playing the story missions with other people. Oh, and another thing Division does better than Destiny, every mission you go up to, you can just matchmake right at the front of it, which is awesome. So you can always find players to play with. There's no restrictions on that, which is great, up to 4 players. But yeah, once you beat the game, like it's so forgettable. The story isn't really told through any meaningful way. There are very few moments where your character's interacting with someone, and I've used the term interact loosely because your character, the one you play and design, never speaks. So you're sort of a blank, empty, shallow husk of a person, I guess, a random agent, and the people you talk to, most of the communication is done through you just listening to voiceovers. You're not talking, so you never feel like you're in the moment, and there's no sense of urgency ever. And it's all forgettable. And then most of the dialogue you'll hear is actually just from collectibles, because like every Ubisoft open world, there are way too many useless collectibles to collect, including over 100 goddamn mobile phones. And every one you pick up, it just auto plays this piece of dialogue, which gives you hints at what the world was like, before, during, and after the viral outbreak on Black Friday. And it's like, who cares? It's boring. And I have to hold down the X button to skip it every time. So the way the story is told is a wasted opportunity, because a lot of the cool bits of the story, or at least the world building part of it, comes in the environments. And I think the best part of the game is how detailed the environments are. And even though there are massive graphical hiccups playing on the Xbox One, where I'm playing, that's sort of like the lead platform because Xbox has the timed exclusive deal on DLC. Massive graphical hiccups, but on PC, or you can still see it on Xbox, when you go into an environment, especially the interiors, it's incredibly detailed. Like, big props to the artist and the design and devs team who works on that. And I wish there was almost somehow more emphasis in game on how epic the environments are. All the little details everywhere, and the little hints of like the horrible things each faction can do inside their little strongholds and bases. And then your own base of operations too, which leads back into the progression system, which is another strong point of the game. But the world itself, like, for being stuck in snowy winter New York, like, they did manage to make it. In broad strokes, everything sort of looks the same, right? But if you look down the nitty gritty and go down any sort of alleyway, you go in any building, you do any sort of mission, which is a unique environment every time, and there's so much detail, and that's the most impressive part of the game, and that applies to your base of operations too, which is where the progression system comes in. And this is, again, I said this earlier as a way that I think the Division is better than Destiny and how it handles progression, but how it ties in unlocking all your skills and stuff with improving and adding upgrades to your base, and how that's visually represented, is a very cool thing. It makes you feel like you're actually making a difference. You're actually building out, the base, or you're building up your Division army. The negative side of that is I don't feel like I'm building an army, because even though this is an online-only MMO shooter sort of thing, you never see other players. Like, the game is entirely single player. Like, literally the game is single player unless you manually group with other players, or you go into the Dark Zone and you meet enemy players. So he doesn't need to be always online. And I said this in my review, and some people didn't like it, but I think it's real shitty that, like, for a game that can be played entirely single player, or like direct connection co-op for that content, you have to always be online. And there are constantly server updates, maintenance, and errors. I have not gone a 3-day span without having some sort of error pop up on the screen, or dealing with massive load times because it's trying to load me to a safe house or a world. And it's stupid. None of that is necessary. Like, they're trying to have control over the player base in a shitty way. The Dark Zone stuff is sort of like the PvP part of it, and going there should require, obviously, you have to be online to do that. But the rest of the game doesn't need to be, because it's not an online world. Like, you're not seeing other players run by. You can't just see people fighting NPCs and go help them. You can only do that in the dark zone. So that's kind of wasted opportunity. But for some reason, when you go into a safe house, there are a bunch of other players there. For like, you can't like talk with them, I guess. Like you have to like manually. I don't know. I guess they're trying to show like, hey, look, you're all fighting the good fight together, and you can manually invite random people you see there. And every safe house in the base has a way to matchmake with randoms as well. So. But because you can manually matchmake everywhere, again, you don't need to always be online just when you want to matchmake. So that drives me crazy. I don't like when any sort of developer forces always online connections. I understand the security part of it, but I think it's extremely anti-consumer, especially when you buy a game and connection errors prevent you from playing it, or server maintenance prevents you from playing an entirely solo player piece of content. If I want to play by myself, why do I need to be online? Not good. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for the most part, it works. Server errors aside, which are, becoming fewer and far between. It sort of works. What else? Okay, so the reason I'm doing this video later is because I played 2 days and 6 hours, which is a shit ton of time, before I put out my review. So what is that? That's 48 plus 55-ish hours. And then afterwards, I played, I don't know, man, another 20 hours maybe. And before I wrote my review, I maxed everything. I completed every mission. I put in a bunch of hours in the dark zone. I started collecting high-end gear already. And after that, the week after my review, I played again because I'm sort of doing the end game content. And this is where the whole game is a grind because you're not playing very interesting set pieces, and all you're doing is beating the same sort of missions over and over again to get slightly better gear, and then equip that, and then you do it again to get slightly better gear. But once you're level 30 and you have all the skills and you're not using green gear or blue gear, and you start to drop purple gear as well, and now you're using the yellow, which is the very highest end, exact same color scheme as Destiny, and I guess every freaking looter RPG these days. Now I'm at the end game, and I kind of have high-end everything. I don't know what to do. I mean, the idea is that you grind through like the challenges and stuff like that to get other high-end gear and try to find the perfect combination. But the end game is super lacking right now. And I guess ideally they want to funnel players into the dark zone, which is sort of the one unique piece of content in this game. That's sort of, if you see the game map, the centerpiece of the Manhattan there is the quarantined area. It's all red on the map. And when you go in there, that's when the shit hits the fan, because any player can just kill you and take any shit you have. Not any shit you have, but anything you find in the dark zone. You don't keep it unless you extract it in an extraction zone. But before you do that, any player or NPC can just kill you and you just drop it, and then they can just take it. So it's like the intensity that comes around meeting other players near an extraction zone is a very unique and cool feeling. But I don't think the game takes advantage of that, because outside of having some fun times betraying people or trying to extract stuff, the gear you get in the dark zone is not good. Like, I have found nothing of value in that dark zone that I haven't gotten already or better from doing hard and challenging missions. So what's the point? The idea is that you keep playing the dark zone and grinding through killing NPCs and other players to raise your level, and the dark zone segment of the game has its own currency in game and its own leveling mechanic, and you have to get to level 50 in order to purchase the schematics, the special dark zone schematics, to get other cool high-end gear. And then once to take advantage of that, you have to have the Division Tech, which is another sort of craftable item you can only get in the dark zone. But that's like 3 layers of grind. Having to level up and fight the same boring enemies in the dark zone over and over and over again to get your level to 50 will take you countless hours. And then you have the currency to buy the better blueprints, and then you have to grind through Division Tech to do anything with it. So, why? And it's like that gear is not much better than what you're doing. So like the whole game is like the worst type of grind. It's everything you hate about certain mobile game styles. It's almost like this game should be free to play so you can spend money buying diamonds so you can bypass the goddamn grind and just level up, because it's just not fun. Like, why do I have to get to level 50? Why can't I just buy it? I played 70 hours of this game or something, maybe more now, and it's like, do you want me to spend another 100 hours so I can switch one yellow item for another? I think this game hit me harder than like Destiny. I kind of lost interest with after the Taken King came out, and once I got to the final raid, I just didn't care, because it's like you're just grinding for the same shit over and over again. There's nothing fun or interesting in that. And for the Division, it's a real problem because the gameplay isn't that great. It's so standard. Like, the only fun I have is playing with other players. And the real reason why I wanted to do this video, and I put up one video yesterday hinting at this, but I had the most fun in this game exploiting it because you're battling Ubisoft's walls and barriers. All they're doing is throwing up obstacles to slow you down. It's like, slow you down. Do this for 20 hours instead of 4 hours to get this gear. You know what I mean? Or you might have a chance of getting that gear. And do this for 30 hours to level up. And it's like, no. Why would I spend 30 hours doing that when I can spend an hour doing that and having a fun time? And so it's a horrible thing to say because there shouldn't be, trolling a game or exploiting it, and exploiting glitches is not inherently a good thing. But it is when you're battling a grind because it's in a more efficient grind and it's a more fun grind. So you've probably, if you've been following The Division, you probably heard of the Bullet King. That was his name, right? The Bullet King. So there was an exploit like a week and a half ago where you could come out of one of the safe houses in the top left of the map, and I think it was top. Well, I guess it depends which way you're looking. Northwest part of the map. Anyways, you came in one of the safe houses, and there was like a high-level named dude and with his little minions. And if you killed the high-level dude, the Bullet King, and left his minions alive to kill you, you could just keep respawning in the safe house, come out and kill him over and over and over again. And every time he would drop purples, and occasionally he would drop a high-end item. It was a great way. So it's like now you could, every 2 minutes, you can get purple items instead of spending 2 hours doing the same friggin' mission over and over again to get the same purple items. So it's like, grind the fun, more exciting way and do it every couple of minutes, or do it the boring way you've already done it a million times and spend 2 hours doing it. It's a game theory. Of course, everyone should be exploiting it because all you're doing is holding us back and getting purple items by wasting our time. We've already done this shit, so it's more fun to group up with people and try to beat the system because it feels like you're actually accomplishing something when you're beating Ubisoft's grind walls. And so that was kind of neat, but they patched that out very quickly. So I didn't discover that until like the night they were patching it, so I only could take advantage of that for like an hour. But I saw a lot of funny videos on it, and there was, it was blowing up all over Reddit and YouTube and stuff. And then more recently, I just randomly was doing the daily challenge mission, and I did the matchmaker, and I entered a game that the players in the group, I could see the other 3 players were already deep into it. And I could hear them over the comms because, I have the mic set to open. So, and I could see their health bars dropping over and over again. You could tell they were dying and reviving each other. So I was like, shit, I'm coming. I was talking over the mic saying, I'm coming. But no one was responding to me, but I could hear them like laughing and having fun. And by the time I got halfway through the mission to where they were fucking players everywhere. I was like, no wonder they are able to revive each other so easily because there's like 15 dudes here. I was like, what is this? There were people everywhere. And I was like, this is only a 4-player thing, and I can only see 3 other players and myself in my little group list. But they had glitched it somehow, and they were like, literally, I was the 16th player, and there were 16 agents, our division army, fighting all these level 32 yellow dudes in the challenging mission. And it was at the Lexington Center, which people were using this exploit on the most because it's the quickest challenge mission to get through. And it was awesome because like now with 16 human players, you can actually fight off, 20 yellow level 32 guys. And it was like, man, this is so much fun. It's my army, our army versus these guys. And instead of spending an hour and a half or 2 hours methodically going through the same mission I've already beaten over and over again for a chance at gear I may or may not already have, now we can plow through it in like 15 minutes. And it's fun. It's funny and fun working with that many people and having that much fun. That's why I'm playing the game, to have fun. And like Ubisoft's way of making you wait and do it slowly and maybe you'll get this thing or not, and then you can do it again and again. I'm like, fuck that. This way was fun. I love that somehow they found this glitch. Now that's been patched out too. So needless to say, I did this like exploit thing. I said, I don't know how they set it up, but I participated in it and was invited to these things 3 days in a row. And I got 50, 60 purple items and a couple of high ends from it. Actually, every time you could beat that mission on the challenging mode, any of the missions, you get like a yellow gear item. So I was farming lots of good stuff. It was a good way to farm. The fact that we have to farm and grind is fucking stupid. That's my problem with this game. But you farm tools and you can sell the stuff for cash, and the cash is useless because there's nothing you can buy of value now. And the high-end or advanced weapons vendor in the base of operations. Sorry, I'm getting real deep into the division shit now. But in the base of operations, there's an advanced weapons guy who sells 2 high-end items. But in a month, he's never switched the item. So it's like, thanks, Ubisoft. Every other vendor switches their shit. This guy sells the same 2 crappy guns the entire time. Stupid. So you have to get Phoenix credits, which is like the level 30 high-end game currency to buy blueprints and certain high-end gear to level up your shit. And so this was the fastest way to get the Phoenix credits and to get weapons to break them down for tools in order to build the shit you need the blueprints from. So layers of grind, guys. Walls. Ubisoft walls everywhere. But I love this fucking exploit was so much fun. On Xbox, the 16-player thing didn't last long because like the frame rate just could not handle that, and the people were getting kicked out because the servers, it was nuts. But 12 player, like 3 groups of 4 was the sweet spot, and we did that over and over and over again. So that was fun, and then that got patched out recently along with a few other exploits. So now it's like, do I want to go back and play missions I played through a million times with just 3 other people? In the basic way it's meant to be played. It's, to be fair, it is meant to be played that way. But spend like an hour going through a mission, or like even like 40 minutes, like, no, I don't want to. So like now, since they, it's sad to say, but since they patched the exploits, and since I have high end everything, and I've seen every mission multiple times, and there's nothing interesting in them, and the dark zone doesn't seem worth investing any more hours in because it's just not fun, and there's nothing to do in there. I'm done with the game. So that's why I'm making this video, because my review, I said it's kind of a bad shooter because the actual shooting stuff isn't fun. The fun comes from playing with other people and beating the system, because the system is not very interesting, right? So it's the sense of accomplishment came from things that were outside of the natural, like the main game design, which is kind of a weird thing. But anyway, that's all to say. The Division, it's worth your $60. There's a lot of hours of stuff to do if you have other people to play with. But if you're in for like a good shooter, this isn't that, man. This isn't even as good as the old conflict games, like 2 generations of consoles ago, when you could play 4-player co-op and you actually had things like rocket launchers, and there were vehicles and enemy vehicles, and every level was like a different sort of environment and aesthetic. This doesn't have any of that. Like the old conflict games from 15 years ago are better shooters than the Division, which is this like massive budget AAA title that sold millions and millions and millions of copies. And that's sad because the gameplay should be better. And the caveat to that is that the devs did do a live stream this week and kind of unveiled what the first incursion is going to look like, and it's going to require a lot of coordination. It's supposed to be super challenging, and there's going to be new, unique rewards, and they're tweaking a bunch of stuff as well. So there's stuff coming, and that's a free update, which is great. I think the game should have launched with incursions, but they're following the Destiny style, where here is one raid, and months later you might get another raid. And even though Destiny's been out like a year and a half, there's like 3 raids in that game. Like, that's it. And they've added nothing for months. Like, that game's been dead since like last fall, and it's kind of a shame. And the Division now is dead to me too. I'll try the incursion, I guess, when it comes out. But if I have to like power level and grind through my character to get the perfect combination of high end gear and taking advantage of the skills and stuff, it's like that's not fun, man. Like, I want to play the game and have fun. And I think, as horrible as it is to say, those exploits were the most fun I had with this game, which speaks volumes to the problems with this game. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad game. It's just there's nothing innovative with it. There's nothing ambitious with it. The online part isn't taken advantage of. The progression system is super cool until you hit max level, and then grind wall. And there's the actual missions. They're just not that interesting. But it can be as a starting platform. There's so much potential, but they will milk it, and it'll be a very slow process. And it's like, I don't want to stick around for that. So. Thankfully, though, that was a good timing for that to stop, because as soon as I got over my addiction, and don't get me wrong, these looter shooters can be very addictive, especially when you're trying to get somewhere or get certain gear, and you are meeting with the same group of friends over and over again. That's the best part of these games, if you have that group or can find that group of random people. And I was playing with random people from the UK, and with those exploits and stuff like that, and we had a lot of fun together. So that's what this game is really about. If you can find the right group, and then they communicate well, and you can start grouping with them again and again to do the daily missions or whatever. That's where it's cool. But because I stopped playing this, I was able to plow through Quantum Break, which comes out tomorrow. I'm going to record a video of that tonight. I've written 6 pages of notes. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to write a normal review, but there's like so many other things I want to do because the game is super interesting. But I'll save that for later. This is a long-ass video, my longest review yet, and I sort of just rambled on. But I had so many thoughts about this game, and like the things I really liked about it, and then the reason I'm frustrated and kind of given up on it now. And it's a shame because I have friends who like want to prepare for the incursion and do other stuff, but it's like it's not worth spending hours and hours and hours to do stuff I've already done. It's not fun. I don't want to grind. So here goes hashtag anti-grind movement, because that shit has to stop. There's got to be a better way. But anyways, yeah, like and subscribe for more videos. I'll do some more. If you want to see the reviews on the channel, I'll do more reviews of like the big movies, big TV things, and the big video games. Because I haven't been recording gameplay. I didn't really record any of my Division gameplay, and I didn't record any of my Quantum Break gameplay either. So I haven't been kind of falling behind and putting up gameplay videos. But the reviews I can do pretty quickly. So, anyways, like and subscribe for more. If you play The Division, share your thoughts on the game. Don't yell at me saying it's a great shooter, because you're not going to convince me of that. You can read my review. I'll put a link in the description of why I don't think that's the case. And if you want to read my very detailed, explicit notes explaining why, the things I like with this game and the things I don't like, and a little bit of where I think it can go. But anyways, yeah. So I'll see you guys next time. 30 minutes. All right. Sorry about that. Cheers.